Today, I want to share with you the 5 specific strategies we teach our students to ace any type of CASPer question. And this is really important because it's impossible for you and I to predict what exact questions you're going to get on your test. But when you employ these strategies, it doesn't really matter what actual questions you'll get because you're going to be able to ace any type of CASPer question you're going to get on your test. But before I do that, briefly I'll introduce myself in case you haven't watched any of my videos. My name is Dr. Behrouz Momeni. I'm the CEO and founder here at BMO or BMO Academic Consulting, where we help a lot of students with admissions to highly competitive graduate and professional programs. Now, over the past few weeks, I've been making these videos. I've been getting a lot of emails about our CASPer preparation program. So if you're interested at all to learn more about those programs, all you have to do is go to bemocasper.com. That's BEMO Casper.com, or click the link either above or below this video to learn more about our CASPer preparation programs. Now, going back to the 5 key strategies that I wanted to teach you, here they are. The first thing you have to do is always remain non-judgmental. So that's tip number 1. What do I mean by that? Let's say a scenario presents a situation where you observe someone who appears to be intoxicated walking towards their car. And then the scenario says, well, in this type of situation, what will you do? Now, there is a judgmental versus non-judgmental approach to this. The judgmental approach is this. You'll say that, hey, you know what? There is absolutely no way I'm going to allow anyone to drive away drunk because they're going to cause a lot of damage to themselves and also put the safety of others at risk. Well, this may sound good on surface, but it's judgmental. Why? Because you're not 100% sure that this person was actually intoxicated. You see, most CASPer scenarios are intentionally, deliberately leaving certain information out, so you cannot be 100% sure about certain facts. And this could be a type of scenario where you're not 100% sure the person is intoxicated or not. Secondly, how do you know for sure that if this person is walking to their car, they're actually going to drive away? You see, there's too many unknowns, and someone who doesn't have maturity of thought is going to be judgmental and jump into a conclusion and say that, hey, there's no way I'm going to allow this person drive drunk, and think that they've actually done well on the CASPer test. Well, that's not the right way. What's the non-judgmental way to do this? You first need to gather all the facts. This actually brings us to tip number 2, gathering all the facts before making any sort of a decision. So what's the facts you will have to gather? Well, is this person actually drunk? If you are able to do that, and this is not an urgent matter, because there's a good chance that person is not drunk and maybe you smelled alcohol on their breath, but they're actually suffering from diabetes, which also is known to cause alcohol breath as a result of ketoacidosis in some patients. So again, as you can imagine, there's no way you'll be able to know for 100% certainty. Secondly, how do you know that they're going to drive away? Maybe they're walking to their car to grab something from their car, or maybe their wallet, they forgot their wallet, they want to grab their wallet so that they could call a cab home. Or maybe they just want to drive to their car to make sure the door is locked because they're intoxicated and they're going to take a cab home. You see, there's no way for you to know unless you gather all the facts, and you got to do this by normally having a private conversation with the individuals involved if it's not an emergency situation and the time allows. And you do this in a private setting. Why? Because it shows that you're a professional and you're not going to embarrass someone, especially if it's not in front of everybody else, especially if it's not an urgent matter. This brings us to strategy number 3. Strategy number 3 says you need to realize who's directly versus indirectly involved. Okay, let's go back to our scenario. If this person is driving to their car and they're they're walking to their car and they're intoxicated and there's a chance that they will drive away, well, who's directly involved? The person who's directly involved is themselves. So their own safety is at risk. Who's indirectly involved? The other sort of parties that are indirectly involved are any sort of bystanders. This person might drive away and hit another car. He may hit other pedestrians. Who else is indirectly involved? Well, the whole community at large is indirectly involved, because if this person actually does drive away intoxicated and actually does, in the process, hit someone or cause an accident, this could bring the entire community, the surrounding community, involved because their loved ones are going to be impacted, or their property is going to be impacted if there's property damage. So you see, this is a skill that only comes with a lot of practice, and it shows without any sort of a doubt that the individual has maturity of thought, because most applicants who get rejected don't have this type of maturity of thought, and they only see things in black and white. So that's tip number 3. Now moving on to tip number 4 for acing any type of CASPer question, and that's realizing that there are different types of CASPer questions. Yes, there's infinite number of questions you could get, but there's about 20 or so different types of questions that we have identified and we work with in our own CASPer preparation programs with our students. Here's the really cool thing. If you learn to identify these different types of questions and have a strategy for each of them, then you're going to be able to ace any CASPer question any day of the week. It's as simple as that. Now, this brings us to the final tip, which is tip number 5. And that one involves making sure that after you've identified the different types of questions, you also have to identify the most pressing issue in each scenario. You see, each scenario is really complicated, just like real life. Remember, CASPer scenarios are normally based on real life situations. They're not limited to any sort of profession. And just like real life, you need to be able to show that you have the maturity of thought and the decision-making capability to pinpoint the most pressing issue and address that using if-then strategy. So going back to our original scenario, here's what I would do. What's the most pressing issue? Well, the most pressing issue is the safety of the person who may drive away and those of others who may be on the road. That's the most pressing issue, the safety of others. And how would I address this question using if-then strategy? Well, this is what I would do. I would say, if it turns out that this individual is indeed intoxicated and they're indeed going to drive away, then I will do X, Y, Z to make sure this doesn't happen, so that no one is put at harm's way. On the other hand, if it turns out that maybe they're not going to drive away, well, there is no cause for concern. Maybe I'll just offer to help them call a cab. You see, there's sort of this if-then strategy you could employ, and this is going to allow you to answer any type of question if you do this correctly. It also allows you not to sound judgmental or leave any sort of piece of important information out, as long as you address the most pressing issue. So that was it for me. If you're interested to learn more about our CASPer preparation programs, again, as I mentioned, you can click the link either above or below this video, or go to bemocasper.com. That's BEMO casper.com, and you learn more. And if you enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed making it for you, go ahead and share it with someone else who may enjoy it as well. And I hope to talk to you soon.